There were violent scenes, riots and arson in the streets of Nagpur last night. The whole thing was around the controversy involving Mughal Emperor Aurangzeb and his grave in what's called Khultabad, about 100 kilometers from Aurangabad, or what is now renamed as Chhatrapati Sambhaji Nagar. Now, it all started at about 7:30 in the evening when Hindu groups and Muslim groups came into a direct confrontation. There were some rumors that were spread about incidents that happened earlier in the afternoon, where the rumor that was spread was that some religious content was burnt down by the Hindu groups that were protesting in the afternoon. That turned out to be a complete rumor, but these two groups then clashed at around 8 o'clock in the evening. Things got ugly, it got out of hand, homes were stoned, police vehicles were attacked, police officers were attacked as well. At least 3 officers sustained very grievous injuries in the process. Today, the matter got raised in the Maharashtra Assembly. The Chief Minister has vowed very strong action against all those people who indulged in these riots. The Deputy Chief Minister has said that there is evidence to show that these riots were completely pre-planned by the ones who undertook this, particularly the Muslim groups that undertook this in parts of Nagpur. There were 2 particular parts of Nagpur that were badly hit. Now, the big question is, this entire thing, it's been festering for about a few weeks now. It all started with the release of the extremely popular movie, it's running successfully even now, Chhawa, starring Vicky Kaushal, which is basically attempting to revise history or correct some of the grievances of history and show a correct picture of the fight between the Marathas and the Mughals, the life story of Chhatrapati Sambhaji Rao and his fight against the Mughal Emperor Aurangzeb. The movie, of course, was a huge hit, but thereafter, a few weeks after that movie got released, it was an SP legislator, Abu Azmi, who started glorifying and venerating Aurangzeb, to which the BJP and affiliates of the Sangh Parivar took grave exception and said, how can you venerate or eulogize somebody who is basically a brutalist as far as the lexicon of Mughal emperors are concerned? Now, this entire thing has been festering in politics. There are 2 questions to be asked. One, how can we possibly redress 17th century grievances in today's 21st century? And more importantly, who is fanning these flames? And why is a tyrant like Aurangzeb venerated or eulogized by certain sections? But I first want to play out what the Chief Minister Devendra Fadnavis said in the Assembly today and the political reactions to it, and then we'll break down what happened last night in Nagpur.
विश्व हिंदू परिषद व बजरंग दलाच्या कार्यकर्त्यांनी औरंगजेबाची कबर हटाव असे नारे देत आंदोलन केले. हे आंदोलन करताना त्यांनी गवताच्या पेंड्या असलेली प्रतिकात्मक कबर त्या ठिकाणी जाळली. जाणीवपूर्वक अशा प्रकारचा हल्ला केल्याचं या ठिकाणी लक्षात येत आहे. याचं कारण जवळपास एक ट्रॉली भरून त्या ठिकाणी दगड मिळालेले आहेत आणि काही लोकांनी जमा करून ठेवलेले दगड, वरती जमा करून ठेवलेले दगड हे आपल्याला पाहायला मिळाले. शस्त्र देखील मोठ्या प्रमाणात त्या ठिकाणी होते. ते शस्त्र जप्त करण्यात आलेले आहेत. वाहनांची जाळपोळ त्या ठिकाणी झालेली आहे आणि ठरवून काही ठराविक घरांना, काही ठराविक आस्थापनांना त्या ठिकाणी लक्ष करण्यात आलेलं आहे. 3 डीसीपी लेवलचे लोक या ठिकाणी जखमी झालेले आहेत आणि जसं मी सांगितलं की यातल्या एका डीसीपीवर तर थेट कुऱ्हाडी वार हा त्या ठिकाणी करण्यात आलेला आहे. त्यामुळे निश्चितपणे याच्यामध्ये काही ना काही एक प्रकारे काही लोकांचा सुनियोजित पॅटर्न हा देखील त्या ठिकाणी दिसतो आहे. अशा लोकांना त्या ठिकाणी त्यांच्यावर कारवाई ही केलीच जाईल. कुठल्याही परिस्थितीमध्ये कायदा आणि सुव्यवस्था हाती घेण्याची कोणालाही परवानगी या ठिकाणी देण्यात येणार नाही. आणि मी एक गोष्ट स्पष्टपणे सांगतो, पोलिसांवर ज्यांनी हल्ला केला असेल त्यांना काय झालं तरी सोडलं जाणार नाही.
All right, so let's just give you some context to this. This whole thing is around the tomb of Aurangzeb, which, by the way, is a curious twist of history. It's neither in Delhi, nor in Agra, nor in Nagpur, which was the ground zero, the epicenter of these fights, these violent scenes that we've seen. But it's actually in a place called Khultabad, which, frankly, nobody outside of Maharashtra was probably even heard about such a town. This is about 100-odd kilometers from Aurangabad. This is an ASI protected monument. So what does that mean? What does the protection of the Archaeological Survey of India mean for a protected monument? It is responsible, the ASI, for the protection and the maintenance of this site. The site has been declared as one of national importance, much like, the Taj Mahal is or the Qutub Minar is. Working under the central government's Ministry of Culture, the ASI is the nodal agency that's responsible for the conservation and the protection of India's monuments. It regulates the use of these monuments, whether it's for tourism purposes, some monuments are used for religious purposes, but the monitoring of it and the regulation of it is done by the Archaeological Survey. No construction, no alteration is allowed in the premises of an ASI protected structure without approval from the National Monuments Authority. The central body then collaborates with various state governments, whether it's for the upkeep, the maintenance, or even the security of the structure, and state governments are bound by law to protect ASI protected monuments. Now, Maharashtra Chief Minister Devendra Fadnavis has hinted that there would be legal action to try and get this controversial tombstone removed. He's in fact even said that they are not averse to approaching the courts to lift the ASI protection that is given out to this tomb in Kuldabad. Now, Aurangzeb's tomb is protected under what is called the Ancient Monuments and Archaeological Sites and Remains Act of 1958. Demolition or the razing down of this grave would require legal procedures to remove the protected status that it has in the first place. The ASI can do that. It has done. It has delisted many number of monuments under the 1958 Act if the ASI is able to convince a court of law that none of these monuments are deemed nationally important. Either they don't have a large footfall of tourists, or they don't have religious or that kind of sentiment attached with it, or they're simply not able to keep up with the growing urbanization around that monument. Now, the delisting process is governed by what is called Section 35 of this particular act, the Archaeological Monuments Preservation Act, which basically allows the central government to remove any monument from the protected list. However, there are claims that Aurangzeb's tomb is also protected under the Places of Worship Act 1991, which of course everyone knows was brought in Parliament after the razing of the Babri Masjid to try and keep the religious nature of all places of worship, at least the most prominent ones in the country, intact as they existed on the 15th of August 1947.
स्टेट इंटरवीन नहीं कर रहा है, इतना मैं जानता हूं, और स्टेट को कोई एलिमेंट है स्टेट में जो ये दंगे पसंद करते हैं, लेकिन इसमें मरता है वो आम आदमी मरता है। तकलीफ आम आदमी को होती है, नागरिकों को होती है। अगर आप देखें तो सारे के सारे भाजपा के मंत्री लीजिए या नेतागण लीजिए, उनके बच्चे जो है सारे परदेश में पढ़ रहे हैं या व्यवसाय कर रहे हैं। क्यों ना हमारे युवा वैसे कर सकते हैं? उनको तो यही फंसाया जा रहा है कि आज आप आंदोलन करो, आज इसके सामने नाचो, आज उस पर पत्थर फेंको, लेकिन कोई भी बात शिक्षण की नहीं कर रहे, स्वास्थ्य व्यवस्था की कर रहे।
नहीं, ये सरकार पुरस्कृत घटना है, ऐसा मैं मानता हूँ। नागपुर की घटना ये सरकार पुरस्कृत घटना है, 100% मैं बोल रहा हूँ। ये महाराष्ट्र शांत महाराष्ट्र है, पुरोगामी विचार का महाराष्ट्र है। यहाँ हर धर्म का इज्जत और सम्मान किया जाता है। ऐसे स्थिति में किसी धर्म को लेकर टारगेट लेकर करके अगर ये धंधे किया जाते हैं तो इसका मतलब स्पष्ट है कि सरकार ने ही ये इनको बढ़ावा दिया है।
पिछले चंद हफ्तों से जो स्टेटमेंट्स महाराष्ट्र के सरकार के मिनिस्टर्स और चीफ मिनिस्टर तरफ से आ रहे हैं उसको देखने की जरूरत है। और सबसे बड़ा प्रोवोकेशन तो वो सत्ता में है, गवर्नमेंट में है, और गवर्नमेंट प्रोवोकेटिव स्टेटमेंट्स दे रही है और उनको इस बात की अपनी जिम्मेदारी का एहसास भी नहीं है कि वो मंत्री हैं, मुख्यमंत्री हैं।
All right, let me go across for a quick face-off on this. Aparajita Sarangi is Lok Sabha Member of Parliament, spokesperson of the BJP. Anish Gawande is spokesperson of the NCP Sharad Pawar faction. Ms. Sarangi, let me start with you first, because at the end of the day, law and order is a state subject. So what happened yesterday in Nagpur, in which 50 people have now been arrested, dozens of homes, vehicles were torched, etc., ultimately it's a stain on the record of the state government. The responsibility of law and order is with the state government, and the state government, messed up. It slipped up.
A very good evening. What has happened in Nagpur should not have happened. It's extremely unfortunate, but at the same time, I can say that the state government of Maharashtra has been doing what it should be doing. 50 people, as you said, have been arrested, put behind bars, and curfew has been imposed. Police has kept a vigil, and I think the chief minister of the state has made it extremely clear, amply clear, that irrespective of any religious, caste, creed, affiliation, nobody would be spared. Nobody can take law into his or her hands, and anybody who is into arsoning, who is into creating law and order issues will not be spared. So I think law and order being a state subject, the chief minister being the home minister too, the state government stance makes it very clear. Now, at the same time, whatever we may say, you know, it seems as though it is part of a premeditated conspiracy. It's an organized conspiracy to defame the Maharashtra government, number one, and number two, to destroy the social harmony and prevailing peace of Maharashtra. So I think we have to look at it from that angle. You know, rumor spreading, rumor mongering is something which is coming out from everywhere. So who actually spread the rumors and why so? See, this Aurangzeb issue is something which makes me feel hurt. Now, if you ask me why, I will definitely let you know that Aurangzeb was one of the cruelest rulers of our nation. For full 49 years, his entire reign was marked by tyranny, oppression and cruelty. He in fact beheaded, executed Sambhaji. We are aware of that. He put his own father behind bars in Agra fort for full 8 years. We are aware of that. So, and he executed Dara Shikoh, his own brother, in 1659. And he razed many temples to the ground, including Kashi Vishwanath temple in Varanasi and the Keshav Rai temple in Mathura. And let me tell you, in fact, I will request all of you to go through a book. I'm a student of history, that's why I'm saying with a lot of confidence, but with humility. There is a book, Emperors of the Peacock Throne, the Saga of the Great Mughals. Please go through this book. And this book has not been written by an Indian, it has been written by Abraham Erali. And the author says that Aurangzeb had razed all temples around Ujjain and destroyed almost 300 temples in Rajasthan. So I think when a particular person, by chance he is a BJP MLA, and if members of BJP, of VHP and Bajrang Dal talk against Aurangzeb, what's wrong? And
so let me ask
who is
Anish
defending Aurangzeb,
Gawande
who is
this.
standing by Aurangzeb, are actually anti-national, I would say. I would go to the extent of saying
Anish Gawande,
that they are into appeasement politics.
That there was a certain narrative, there is a certain sort of version of Aurangzeb and a certain whitewashing of his crimes, mass crimes, that we were all taught in our history books, and it took a movie, a popular Bollywood movie, to even, you know, shed the light on the role of Chhatrapati Sambhaji Maharaj to maybe not a Maharashtra audience, but to an all India audience. And then after this whole thing really started when Abu Azmi, an SP MLA, went up and said that, look, this guy was a great man and he's done great things and he was, you know, a unifier, not a divider. Why would anybody eulogize and venerate a person who was a known tyrant? That was what the issue was. The fact that there was all this, you know, glorification that was happening of a brutalist. That's why the Hindu groups, whether it's BJP MLAs, whether it is VHP, Bajrang Dal, etc., have been going on an overdrive saying, raise down the grave. Why are you celebrating such a tyrant?
Zaka, good evening. I'm very glad to be on the show, and good evening to Mrs. Sarangi as well, who's a parliamentarian I appreciate and admire very much and whose work I've respected. As a fellow student of history, I was ashamed yesterday when we were discussing Aurangzeb, because this is not what I wanted to discuss as a young politician in Maharashtra. There are far greater crises facing my state today, and I would much rather like to discuss other issues. Now, the reality remains that in Maharashtra, if you grew up in Maharashtra, you did not need Chhawa to teach you about the horrors of Aurangzeb. I grew up reading Mrityunjay by Shivaji Savant, which details in many excruciatingly difficult sort of ways the horrors inflicted upon Chhatrapati Sambhaji Maharaj by Aurangzeb. If we turn back to history, we see that the history of my state, of Maharashtra, has been such that even the grandson of Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj, Shahu Maharaj I, visited that grave of Aurangzeb, because the tradition of a Shiv Shahu Phule Ambedkar Maharashtra has not been to raise things to the ground, but to acknowledge that history. The most befitting lesson that Aurangzeb has ever received is that his grave is an unmarked, unknown grave in the middle of Khultabad, because anyone who has tried to affront the dignity of Maharashtra has faced his end, and we need to remember that. Let me tell you a little bit about the fact that Abu Azmi made this statement. When did he make this statement? Aap thodi chronology samajhiye. Abu Azmi makes this statement the same day that Dhananjay Munde is sacked. Fadnavis ji makes his statement about Aurangzeb the same day that the budget of Maharashtra is presented, and they can't raise the amount for the Ladki Bahin Yojana from 1,500 rupees to 2,100 rupees. Again, this controversy is reignited during the Vidhan Sabha session to avoid any sort of critiques or accusations. My simple stance over here, and my party's simple stance is, this government has been in power for 10 years. The BJP is the first government that behaves like it's in the opposition when it is in power. Your ASI is under you, your central government is under you, your state government is under you. Do we really need to make a 3-week charade out of the removal of a grave of Aurangzeb? And I want to finally just add one small point, because Mrs. Sarangi has been an administrator and she's been an impeccable one in Odisha. And I respect and admire what she said today. But unfortunately, other members of the BJP are not following suit. We have a very tense situation in Nagpur. There are riots that have taken place last night. But what does the Nagpur Central MLA or BJP MLA say? Only one community was important in the riots. Only certain shops have been destroyed. Are you fanning flames instead of calming them down? Do you want more riots to take place? This is not responsible. Gadkari ji has been responsible. Other senior leaders have been responsible. But I really hope that other people in the party follow suit, because
that's an aside
very,
from the
very
main story.
dangerous
I
for
want to
Maharashtra.
ask Aparajita Sarangi though. I mean, answer the point that Anish Gawande is making. You've been in power for 10 years. The Aurangzeb issue is not a new one, and surely it shouldn't have taken a movie for this issue to become mainstream. Why aren't you approaching the court? Why isn't the ASI? And time and again, the ASI approaches the court and says, look, there are certain monuments which we are not able to maintain or upkeep, or it's relatively fallen in importance. There are no people visiting there. There are no tourists, etc. From time and time again, virtually every year, the ASI does that. Why haven't you done that with Aurangzeb's tomb? The point is that ultimately, this is being propped up as a political festering dispute, so that ultimately, and this is what the opposition is alleging, ma'am, that the upcoming municipal elections get polarized and it benefits the BJP and its alliance partners.
Now, with all humility, let me tell you that Bharatiya Janata Party at this stage does not want to indulge in politics to win votes or to win the credibility of the people of Maharashtra. Please don't forget that we have just won 3 elections with thumping majority: Haryana, Maharashtra and Delhi. So I think we are not at all bothered about the elections that are coming. Development is our agenda. The right policy formulation is our agenda, and its proper implementation is our agenda. We focus on that. We focus on events like Mahakumbh, which actually took the shape of an event, great event, which actually united the entire nation together. So my point is, my simple point is, one BJP MLA and the BHP and the Bajrang Dal, they come and they talk against Aurangzeb, right? Now, why do these people feel threatened? Why do these people have to stand with Aurangzeb? The defendants of Aurangzeb today are actually anti-national, if I can say that, and they are indulging in appeasement politics. I can say for sure. Why should, I mean, you know, it hurts us when you stand by Aurangzeb. Why are these people suddenly very uncomfortable when we actually speak against Aurangzeb? I think they all should come forward and say, yes, Aurangzeb was the cruelest Mughal emperor, the 6th Mughal emperor, very cruel. And his, you know, we should take action against the glorification exercise. But at the same time, let me tell you, you did mention about the Amsar Act 1958, the Archaeological Monuments and Archaeological Sites and Remains Act 1958. We have to follow certain procedures. When there is an act of parliament, we have to abide by the provisions of law. And the ASI is under the central government, as you rightly said, Jaka. So the chief minister of the state can only say that, you know, we cannot glorify. He used the word Mahima Mandit. We cannot glorify, we cannot celebrate this Mughal emperor's achievements or whatever the actions. Yes. No. So he said that, you know, when the time comes, the ASI will definitely, you know, go by its procedures. So the state government will write,
Anish, I'll give you the final word.
Examine in the light of the provisions of this particular act.
The whole debate is around, you know, what is the correct version of history that we are being taught? I mean, this whitewashing of crimes of certain Mughal emperors, Aurangzeb being top of them, which has been going on for decades through our history textbooks, through our popular culture, etc., etc. that is being revised. You can call it revisionist history, but it's happening around the world. Look at what's happening in America. Look at what's happening in Europe. It's happening around the world. And I think it's about time that at least that is understood in a way that people don't go around saying that, oh, Aurangzeb was a noble man and he was, he built so many temples and he donated so much to so many temples. All of that is eulogizing a tyrant, a brutalist.
Zaka, if you've been to Maharashtra, you know that nobody is eulogizing Aurangzeb. If you've been to Maharashtra, you know that nobody is glorifying Aurangzeb. If you've been to Maharashtra, you know that everyone goes to the Ellora caves, which are walking distance from this venerated grave of Aurangzeb, that Chief Minister Devendra Fadnavis says a Mahamandal is being sort of built around, and you'll know that nobody goes to that grave of Aurangzeb. So the reality is that this is an imaginary monster being created in heads to distract from real issues. It's distracting from the fact that 7 farmers are dying every day from suicide in Maharashtra. It's distracting from the fact that the stock markets have fallen 16%. It's distracting from the fact that Trump's tariffs might hit 5 to 10 basis points of our GDP in the coming years. These are distraction tactics that we must sort of stay away from. And for the NCP SP, I don't think we ever need a certificate of patriotism for anybody, particularly when it comes to venerating Aurangzeb. We are Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj's party. We are the party that is defending Shiv Shahu Phule Ambedkar, and it is BJP MPs in the Lok Sabha, unfortunately, also from Odisha, Mrs. Sarangi, who are saying that Modi ji is a reincarnation of Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj. So the insult to Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj is not coming from us. In fact, the insult to Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj is coming from the BJP that has failed to upkeep the tomb of Maloji Bhosle, who is Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj's grandfather, whose tomb is lying in a garbage dump right next to that Aurangzeb's grave.
All right, we'll leave it at that. I'm out of time. Thank you very much, Anish Gawande and Aparajita Sarangi, for joining us. We'll see how this progresses. Of course, like I said, law and order, there has to be no compromise with anyone who takes the law into his or her own hands and indulges in the kind of rank and wanton arson and riots that we saw in Nagpur, a city that's extremely peaceful and has a record of communal amity between Hindus and Muslims.